Well, things are moving fast here in the desert garden as we transition into summer. As I mentioned in my last video, we really didn't get much of a spring. So yeah, we're basically moving right into summer. And so I want to get some things ready and kind of do some cleanup, little things here and there just to get ready for the summertime because that heat is going to come fast. Hey, welcome back to the Spooky Small Space Garden. I'm Tish, and I'm a small space container gardener in the scorching desert of Phoenix, Arizona, Zone 10A. And today, to get ready for summer planting or summer growing, I'm going to go ahead and drop some seeds. So we've got some bean pole that we're going to plant. As I mentioned before, I've got 3 sisters growing, and so some of the corn is tall enough now that they're ready for the beans. Also, chimayo melon, and this is from the native seed bank. I believe it's native to New Mexico, but very heat tolerant. Chimayo melon, it's basically a type of cantaloupe, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, we're going to put in some gray zucchini, and that's going to go with the corn. I've got some Mayo watermelon, and I do have a sugar baby growing right now, but these are going to go, at least one of these is going to go in one of the corn bags. And then we've got some common beans. These are bush beans that I'm going to be planting out. Italian parsley. Now I do have a very tiny parsley growing. It's pretty slow. So I'm going to go ahead and plant another one. I've got some Genovese basil, and this is going to go with my tomatoes to kind of help deter pests there. And then I've also got a Big Mac's pumpkin, and I'm going to put that one in also with the corn bag and hopefully grow a pumpkin for the first time. Also, we've got some alyssum, and that's going to go in various areas all over the yard. Also, zinnia. You guys know how I love the zinnia. Those flowers last forever. They're very heat tolerant, and they're just beautiful. Again, some more zinnias. So, lots of seeds to drop, and let's get to it. And I think I'm going to grab a hat because this sun is getting brutal, and I am running out of shade. All right, you guys, before we get started dropping seeds, I am going to give you a quick garden tour so you can see where we're at. And I'm going to start at the end with the tepary beans. All right, so I have this old pot that was on my patio that I needed to move off of the patio. Wasn't sure what to do with it. Had really old, nasty soil in it. Not really nasty, but just really old. And knowing that tepary beans are not particular about the type of soil, I went ahead and planted several in here. As you can see, one of them is popping up. Looks like there's another one over here getting ready to pop, but I'm going to keep these watered until they get their first true set of leaves. And as you can see over here, these tepary beans are fully leafing out in that pot as well as this one. And now that these are nice and leafy, they've got their true set of leaves, I've stopped watering them. So the thing about tepary beans is they are extremely drought tolerant. They basically can survive on rainfall. In fact, the less you water them, the more they produce. Now, given that these are in containers, in particular grow bags, they're going to lose a lot more moisture than if they were in the ground. So likely in the dead of summer, if we don't get a whole lot of rain, I will give them a bit of water when they're thirsty, and when they start looking wilty and not so good, I'll give them a drink. But other than that, I'm going to leave them alone and let them do their thing. This is my first time growing them, and I'm super excited. So join me on that journey. All right, back behind this monster hollyhock that kind of volunteered, still looking beautiful even though most of the flowers are drying out. I've got my Itoi onions back here that are still just thriving. And you guys, I've been harvesting these like crazy, and they are still going strong. So yeah, I'll just continue harvesting and eating and using and whatever till they're gone. Over here we've got our onions that are doing pretty well. I mean, I've never grown onions before, so I really couldn't tell you, but they look good to me. Down here we've got a loofah and also one over here. And I did plant two because the first one I planted was getting munched on and I was afraid it wasn't going to make it. So I planted another one to go up this trellis. And I will likely only keep one of these because they are extremely long growing. From what I've heard, they will grow 20 feet. So I don't have that much room, so we're only getting one. Down here, we've got an okra plant trying to peek up through these monster potatoes. You guys, look at these potatoes. I moved these from another part of the garden and they're just enormous. They're doing really well right here, even though they get quite a bit of sun. In fact, you can see that they're starting to flower. And somebody mentioned that when they flower, that means they're creating tubers. Now, I don't know how true that is because the last time I harvested potatoes, I did not have any flowers on them. So who knows? It could be just the type of potato. I guess, we'll see. I've got a bush bean down here and I'm wanting to put bush beans all through here, but I'm thinking that right now the potatoes are shading that area quite a bit. So not sure how that's going to work out. Got another bush bean over here, and the watermelon is really slow growing, but it is growing. Back there, I've got 2 onion bags that are probably getting a little too much shade, but you know what? I'm going to leave them alone and let them do their thing. And over here, we've got some corn, and as you can see, this was the last corn that I planted. So it was planted much later than those 2 bags. And that's why they're a bit smaller, and that's okay. They are ready to get their companion beans in, so that's what we're going to do today. Over here with this corn, you can see the beans are starting to grow up through the corn, which is what we want. And so now that we've got beans going, I'm going to go ahead and plant the melon, zucchini, squash, all that good stuff to help with the soil. And then I'll probably give that some fish emulsion just to give it a little boost. All right, bigger part of the garden. So you guys, this oregano is seriously out of control. I've given it 2 haircuts and it just keeps producing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it back maybe to half its size. I don't know, we'll see. And go from there. But look at this. I cut down the ground cherry and it's coming back. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know if I'll keep it. All right, over here, we've got the San Marzano tomato, and look at how gorgeous this is, you guys. Starting to get blossoms. You can see them over here. There we go. It is starting to get blossoms, so I'm anxious for those to bloom and have fruit. But look at the size of the stalk, you guys. I am still amazed that I planted this thing from seed. This is the first time I started tomatoes from seed, so I'm really proud of these ladies. And again, these are San Marzano. I have been watching for suckers. I'm trying to keep control of that. And likely I'm going to top them off at some point so they don't get too tall. Speaking of tall, this ground cherry is ridiculous. I mean, you can see it's taken up this whole side of the garden. And I'm going to go in here. Okay, I wanted to show you what they're looking like. So take a listen. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's kind of, it feels like paper and it sounds like paper. So once it starts getting that transparent color and it gets crispy, that ground cherry will drop. So you don't actually harvest these off of the plant. They will drop to the ground when they're ready to be harvested, hence the name ground cherry. So the problem with this plant is that not all of these branches are fruit bearing. In fact, only 1 or 2 branches are actually producing fruit. So I'm thinking I'm going to cut this back a bit. Not so much in the back there against the wall because I can't get back there anyway. I mean, I can, but it'll take some work. And it's not hurting anything over there. So I'm going to leave the back part of it alone. But this front part that is just taking over, I think I'm going to end up pruning that back and just keeping the branches that are actually fruit bearing. Over here, we have this tiny little stevia plant. And you guys, this poor thing, I mean, she's a little witch. This thing is not growing. That thing, and I don't know if it's just not enough sun, probably shaded too much by this monster. And yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to have a stevia plant if that sucker doesn't just kick up and start growing. Anyway, I'm going to leave it alone, let it do its thing. This was the garlic bed that we're going to be planting seeds in today. And I've got a bucket of compost over here. Look at this, you guys. Beautiful. I'm so happy with this. So the last time I sifted my compost, and I do sift my compost because I'm impatient and it takes way too long to completely break down, and I like to use it as I need it. So I do sift, and that's just to get the big pieces out, get the good stuff. And usually I have a tray and a big bin that I use. However, I didn't need quite as much this time. So I use this dollar store wastebasket and this 5-gallon bucket. So I just plopped it in there, filled it up, shake it around, and this is what I've got. Beautiful compost. So I'm going to be adding adding a layer of compost to all the garden bags today. They absolutely need a refresh. And I'm going to hold off on the mulch right now. Everything has a thin layer of mulch, but I'm going to be increasing that when it warms up. So I want a nice thick layer of mulch. All right, onto this side. This oregano is just, again, out of control. It's going to need another cutback. I mean, this thing has just been producing. And this, I believe, is season 2 for this plant. So very prolific, very beautiful. I love it. Volunteer snapdragons and wildflowers kind of blocking the path. But I'm not pulling them because they're so pretty and they're attracting pollinators. So I just kind of step around them, move them out of the way, and we'll get there. All right, down here we've got beans. These are pole beans that are going to be climbing here. And I can't remember if I planted just straight pole beans or if I planted yard-long beans. But either way, I'll take it. Got some more coming up here, a sunflower. This mint has seen better days, but that's fine. The main reason I planted it was for repellent, you know, to deter pests. So hopefully it's doing its job. This bell pepper, I don't know if you remember how bad this looked, but it was looking really bad. I harvested all the peppers and I pruned it back quite a bit. And as you can see, it's got some new growth, new blooms, and it's looking really good. So I think that's really what it needed. And so that's what it got. Nasturtiums are still going strong, which is crazy in this heat, but I am not mad. This little parsley is doing all right. It could be better, but that's all right. Do your thing, girl. Got some poblanos over here. It looks like it's getting its first little bud. So keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing. Random marigolds coming up. I suck at marigolds. As you can see, this looks horrible. Actually, it's got some new buds. Doesn't look too bad. But seeds coming up. Another San Marzano here. Doing really well. And then over here, we've got the Brad's Atomic Grape. And again, little flowers, little buds. Hopefully that will turn into tomatoes. I don't know if you can see real well, but this plant is kind of scraggly. And from what I heard, that's typical of this plant. But we'll see. It's my first time growing it, but I am very excited about it. So hopefully we'll get some beautiful tomatoes off of it. All right, so I'm going to start over here with the bush beans. Oh, it looks like I've got one here getting ready to come out. Darn it. All right, that looks like they are slow growing. I'm going to cover that back up. So apparently I did put some bush beans in here, but I'm gonna throw a few more in just because the more beans I have, the better. Because we love green beans in this house, so we will eat them. All right, next up are these Blue Lake pole beans. And again, these are going to climb this corn. I have not put beans in this bag yet. The other two bags do have them, with the exception of these little corns coming up in the back. So I will put some in there. All right, so for these beans, I like to get them as close as I can to the corn so that they're close enough to climb up. And I do like to plant them close to the Oya pot. That way they're going to get lots of moisture. But the closer you can get them to the corn, the better, because then, you know, really easy to climb. Just going to plop them in there a bit. I've got some corn actually that is really close together over here. These two stalks right here. And I'm going to go ahead and plant two beans because why not? I mean, two stalks, two beans, why not? I don't know about this little guy here. I'm not sure. I may end up pulling it. It's so close to this other one, and I don't know if it just kind of came out like that, or I don't know what's going on. But it is what it is. So we've got those done, and I've got a few in the back over here that I'm going to put in. Okay, so we have pumpkin, we have watermelon, and we have zucchini, and we have 3 bags. So we're going to put one in each bag. I just need to decide which one is going to go where. I think that I'll put the watermelon in the far bag. I think I'll put the zucchini in the first bag and the pumpkin in the middle. And we'll see how far we have to trail. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to work out. It's pretty crowded, but you know, we'll see what happens. All right, so I've got 2 pumpkin seeds left. So these are both going in case one doesn't make it. And you know, usually you plant these on the outside of the container. But I'm going to go a little more towards the middle, only because the outside of the container tends to dry out. The bags tend to dry out really quickly. And I don't want these to dry out too much. They need a lot of water. So I'm going to plant a little closer so that it gets water from the Oya pot. And hopefully it will get enough sun over there. It looks like there's some volunteers around here. What's going on here? It looks like we've got a, whoa, I'm all over the place. It looks like we've got a milkweed. Can't see through all this corn, but we've got a milkweed plant that popped up. And you know what? I'm fine with that. All right, corn. Okay. That one's going to go right there. All right. And now on to zucchini. All right, same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 in, and again, a little closer to the Oya pot so that it can get some nice moist soil consistently. Let's see. The other one, let's put it over here. Get lots of water. So this is a Mayo watermelon, and this is from Native Seed Search. It's a nonprofit organization that conserves and sells seeds that are adapted to this arid environment. So anything I want to grow in Arizona, the first place I look is Native Seeds, because I know that those are adapted to this harsh environment. So I think I'm going to put 2 in here if I can talk. Again, in case one doesn't make it, I probably will not grow 2 of them, but I'm going to stick to 1 because I know that these are going to get really big. And I don't have a lot of room. This is a small space garden. So I may end up maybe putting some kind of trellis up. Who knows? We'll see. But I really want it to grow around the corn and just kind of, in and out, because that's going to provide some shade for the roots. But again, I'll be putting a really thick layer of mulch before summer hits. So those roots are going to get nice and shaded for sure. And that mulch will help keep in the moisture as well. Because as you know, grow bags dry out very fast, especially in this desert heat. All right, moving on to the Genovese basil. You can see how tiny these seeds are. So I'll probably end up sowing several. Well, for one, because not all of them will make it, of course. And I'll pull, if it starts to multiply too much, then I'll pull whatever plant. Keep the strongest one. So basil is an excellent companion plant for tomatoes. Not only does it repel pests, but makes your tomatoes taste amazing. I mean, who doesn't like tomatoes with basil and all the delicious Italian seasonings? I mean, I know I do. All right, and since I suck at marigolds, as I mentioned, I'm going to be planting some alyssum along the outer, kind of the outer edges of the bags for the tomatoes. Again, pollinator attractor, and hopefully it can deter some pests, but it's going to bring the pollinators, and that counts. All right, so now we're left with the zinnia, and I've got 2 different packs here, one from the dollar store and one from Botanical Interest. So I'm going to plant out both. And I think that these are going to just go randomly all over the garden because I love, love, love zinnias, and they're so pretty. And I kind of want them popping up everywhere. Yeah, I think I just talked myself into that. All right, so next up is this bed. I'm just going to kind of get all of this hay that was the mulch that I used for the garlic. This was a garlic bed. Just going to get as much as I can of this, and a lot of it's going to compost back down into the soil, and that's fine, but we'll do that. All right, and I'm going to kind of mix it up a bit. I also am going to add compost because I know that it's probably lost some nutrients since we harvested the garlic, since the garlic was growing in here, all the reasons. So, and actually, you know what? The soil looks delicious, you guys. I don't know if you can see it, but it looks great. So it really is not going to need much. And I know I should be wearing gloves. I'll be cleaning dirt out from under my fingernails. But you all know how I love to dig in the dirt. So no gloves today. All right, so the plans for this bed is we've got our Chimayo melon. So that's going to go over here on these 2 trellises in this corner where it's going to get the most amount of sun. And then our parsley is going to go at the other end. And I might put actually 2 over there. And then the alyssum, it's going to go all along the front part of the bed. I did that last year and it was so pretty, kind of hanging over the end. Oh yeah, gardener hands, y'all. I'm going to add a nice layer of compost, especially over here where we're going to be planting. And I will add some worm castings in there in the planting hole just to give it a nice boost, but we want to refresh this soil. And like I said, it's really rich soil, so I don't think it's going to take a whole lot, which is good. Oh yeah, it looks amazing, you guys. That's the thing about composting. If you don't compost at home, I highly recommend that you do, because honestly, soil is expensive along with everything else these days. I rarely buy soil. The only time I will buy soil is if I'm starting a brand new bag, and I need to fill it, and so then I will buy soil. However, that is very rare. Now that I have my garden pretty much set up with everything where it needs to go, as you can see, I am running out of space. So not a lot of room to add more bags. So I probably am not likely to do that. So it's very likely that I won't have to buy soil again. So I'm just adding a nice layer along where I'm going to be planting. And every time I water, all the nutrients from this compost are going to go right into that soil, seep down, feed the soil, give it everything it needs. Because this is, let me tell you, this is gold in the garden. It is straight gold. All right, so I've got a cup of worm castings here. I'm sure you all know what worm castings are, but in case you don't, it's worm poo. Highly nutritious for your soil. So I'm going to add some into each planting hole. And that's going to give it a really nice boost. And actually sprinkle some along here where I'll be planting the alyssum. Usually I just use worm castings when I'm vegetable planting, not so much for the flowers. I don't know why. I think probably because, oh, I've got a couple worms in here. Excellent. Okay, now do I keep them in the bed or do I put them in the compost? You know what? Toss them back in there. Enjoy, little ones. We're going to keep them in the bed. Why not? All right, worm castings. And hopefully they'll live in there and create more. And also, I think that something that will be helpful in feeding these worms, because I'm not actively feeding them, so who knows if they'll survive. However, since I am going to have a lot of wood mulch up here, I believe that is something that they can feed on. I could be wrong, but stranger things have happened. All right, Chimayo. Oh, and I just dropped them all. Oh, my hands are so dirty. I really should have worn gloves. Chimayo melon, plopping right down in there. Just cover it up, and I'm going to grab these because I don't want too many popping up because these are going to get big. They're going to climb this entire trellis. And I am here for it. Love it. Parsley. I do want lots of parsley this year. I believe the whiteflies got my parsley last year, and so I didn't get a very good harvest. And these seeds are tiny, so I'm going to put a couple out here. Just kind of cover it. And actually, this hole might be a little big, so that's all right. I can always thin out, and I've got tons of seeds, so you know what? We're going to sprinkle some more. Why not? As much parsley as we can, because I would love to preserve that and have it all year. All right. The alyssum, again, these are super tiny seeds, but I'm just going to sprinkle along the edge here. And again, like I said, last year I did this with the alyssum and it just grew along the edge so beautifully. Just going to lightly cover that. And I'm going to give these seeds a chance to sprout before I add mulch, because I know some of these are so tiny and I really want to give them the best chance to sprout up. And in my experience, most of the seeds I plant have no problem popping up through that wood mulch. But oh, there's so many worms, you guys. I love it. Anyway, just completely lost my train of thought. Yeah. All right. So we have our raised bed planted out. with the chimayo melon, parsley, alyssum. I have pruned this ground cherry back so it's no longer completely covering everything. Just a few branches left. And I've added compost to everything. And you guys, I don't pull my mulch back when I add compost. And I don't really think it's necessary because all of that compost is going to be watered in right through that mulch. So I just go ahead and add it. Whew, it's getting hot already. Uh, seeds are planted out. Everything has a fresh layer of compost to get some nutrients back, and I'll do that. I'll continue to do that about once a month. Just refresh that compost and see how things are looking. I'm pretty happy with the garden. Things are just moving along nicely. No real concerns, and I think that we are ready for summer. Everything that I wanted to plant for the spring/summer season has been planted. I put the last of the seeds down today, and now it's just a waiting game. Now we just maintain and prune where we need to, feed where we need to, you know, supplement water if we need to, and just watch it grow and reap the rewards. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.